All right. Well, we know that Senator Bob Corker, who is not running for re-election, and Donald Trump have not seen eye to eye. They're upping the ante right now and going after each other. And Charlie Gasparino wonders if in the process, whatever justification the president might feel he has in going after Corker, he is losing someone who could otherwise be a potential yes vote on tax reform. What do you think, bud?
Well, the other day we were talking about who are the Republicans that are going to vote, that are probably going to vote no, and McCain is probably one. Rand Paul is probably another. Susan Collins is probably another, right? Well, guess what? Donald Trump just added Corker to the list. So he's got 4 Republicans that are likely, which is probably why he's golfing with Lindsey Graham today. Make sure it's not number 5.
Number 5.
So this is pretty interesting. I mean, listen, here's the thing. This is an investment show.
What do you make of that golfing with Lindsey Graham?
Well, I mean, it's just to stop him from, because he's counting the votes in the Senate. And he knows that it's probably not going to happen if he loses one more.
And we should say Lindsey Graham is your entree to get to a McCain, to get to some of these other people, right? So it's more than just winning his vote.
Although, remember, Lindsey Graham voted to repeal Obamacare, and McCain didn't.
That's
so
right.
Remember, these guys operate on different planes.
If you had a gut, I'm sorry to keep jumping on you, bud, but if you had a gut call on this tax thing, how's it looking to you?
Well, you're adding up the votes. How many Democrats are they going to need to get those? And will those? And are those Democrats really out there? I just think this is going to be very difficult.
So even if you got all 3. Donnelly of Indiana, who else? Manchin of West Virginia, Heitkamp of North Dakota. Those 3 who didn't sign on to this tax cut letter from Chuck Schumer et al. Even if you got them all, if you lose that many Republicans, it might be over.
It's over. And, here's the other thing that's interesting. I think he can get those Democrats in, but only if he starts watering this thing down. Right. Phil Gramm wrote a really good column today.
Excellent.
Okay, so what he basically said is this. If you want to spur the economy, if you believe in supply-side economics, guess what is going to happen? You have to cut taxes for the rich. You have to, because they're the people that spend the money. They pay most of the taxes. If you cut for the middle class, you are not going to get the bang for the buck that you're promising. This is the oddity.
And they should embrace that, he says, because the top 10% pay 71% of the taxes.
Federal taxes.
Right, and 45% of all taxes.
Yeah, I mean,
numbers that are much, much higher here than in places like he said, Sweden and France.
I mean, it's ridiculous that Donald Trump and Gary Cohn, these guys are going out and talking about cutting middle-class taxes for people that don't pay a lot of taxes. I will say,
but their hope is that would win Democratic votes. You seem to be saying it's not going to happen.
Well, it might, but just think what you're selling your soul for. You're selling your soul for a Pyrrhic victory. Watered down tax cuts that really don't do anything, no real tax reform, and guess what? You may be stuck with 1.5%, 2% growth. The bottom line is the markets are up today, well, marginally down right now, because net, again, I'm going to say this again. I've been saying this till I'm blue in the face. President Trump, unless he starts going real crazy town, I mean, like even more than what he's doing now with Corker, which was completely off the charts insane, we'll have to just do something really insane for the markets really to fall off.
We should explain. The president said that Corker was begging for his support. Corker claims otherwise. And furthermore, Corker wanted the Secretary of State job, but that wasn't going to happen. So someone is lying.
You know what's scary? And it's obviously the president. Here's the thing, Neil. What's so scary about this is that his first impulse, and it's almost even before Corker is even, and Corker didn't say it, he didn't start it.
Right.
His first impulse when Corker told him I'm not going to run when he called him up was to basically smear the guy and lie about it.
Well, they've always had a bit of a fractious relationship.
Well, they've been back and forth, right? They were good friends, not.
But most presidents in the past, and maybe this one's different, I understand, it goes with the flow. You can deal with it.
But why lie about the guy?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you could just say,
The White House says they're not lying that he did that, but.
Oh, so who do you believe?
I'm a news person.
Well, let me ask you this: who did you believe when Trump said he might have tapes of Comey? Who did you believe when Trump said his crowd sizes are bigger than anybody's?
Well, it's clear to see from the pictures that he did have twice the crowd.
Right. From the pictures.
Right, you got it.
Yes.
You've seen the pictures.
The pictures. Well.
So, but you think that this could boomerang on him, and he loses all this support?
I mean, listen,
or is he then saying, if I go down, I mean, it's because of these SOBs?
And by the way, these SOBs get elected, and you need them to push through your agenda. The bottom line is this: if you're going to lie about somebody, well, guess what? He's not going to help you. If you're going to lie about someone and make him look stupid, and he's the head of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, he's going to come out and say that you're lying and you're deranged. I mean, that's what's going to happen.
I can't imagine Corker seeking out the president's support, given their fractious relationship. I just can't.
And
I can't see it.
I can't imagine him begging, and it's just.
You mentioned the markets, meanwhile, at the outset here, and today's softness notwithstanding, they have been an incredible run. And I know your view has always been tax cuts are a very small part of that.
Of this, yes, right. So far. If you get it.
So I'm going to turn around, as I do with you a lot on this subject. If it looks like they're not going to happen this year, or if it looks increasingly like they might not happen at all, then what?
I still think the market will trade on fundamentals of companies.
But still at these levels?
Maybe, because here's why. Trump, net, he's put a lot of pro-growth people in very key positions in the federal bureaucracy, the FCC, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Justice Department's Antitrust Division, the SEC, and EPA, you name it. So this is an administration that is ratcheting back regulations, and I am telling you, every CEO I talk to says when you ratchet back the regulations, that goes to the bottom line pretty heavily. It's almost like a tax cut, and he's doing it by
none
fiat.
of this is unraveled, in other words, in your mind.
Listen, we'll have a correction, of course, but you think
we could have? We're very close next week to the 30th anniversary of the '87 crash. Do you think we could get anything like that?
I don't see it. It doesn't look. I mean, unless Donald Trump does something really crazy. I mean, listen, what you worry about is sort of extraneous events, right? Does something happen in Europe? Is there, North Korea can always happen. Does Trump say something or do something so outrageously off the charts that people question his sanity?
But it's always something, an event that we didn't see coming,
It's always
a catalyst.
Although I will say the financial crisis, all you had to do was watch me at the time. For about a year, or a year and a half, I was talking about a credit crunch and banks being impaired. I mean, usually this stuff is out there. This would have to be an extraneous thing and something that, is...
Because the general rule has been, interest rates have been unusually low. We got a bond market bubble,
they may come up.
And there could be an event like an '87 program trading or whatever. What I mean?
Okay, so here's a countervailing argument, just so you know, because I talk to other traders. Friend of mine, Larry McDonald, pretty smart guy.
Sure.
He's on the show. He basically sort of crunched the numbers on the last employment report and saw some decent signs of inflation. Like the average hourly wages earnings was going up fairly dramatically in the last employment report, even though we had issues with the storm. He believes there could be an inflation spike. If you believe there's going to be...
That's the last thing people are expecting.
Okay, that's right. If you believe there's an inflation spike, then the Fed is going to have to increase interest rates much more dramatically. And what you will have is that will put the brakes on this rally. Because what happens, yields go up, stock prices will probably decline because people then start buying bonds at the higher returns.
Surprised to see you working on Columbus Day.
I know. My friend of mine was just marching in the parade.
Really?
I saw my friend Mike, and I said, he was an honoree, and I said, yo, Mike. And he goes, hey, Charlie. I said, Happy Indigenous Peoples Day.
That's what they're calling it.
I think they should call it Happy Indigenous Peoples who performed human sacrifices day.
But they're guarding.
That's what they should do.
The Columbus statue at Columbus Circle 24/7.
They should.
Isn't that amazing?
It's really ridiculous. Like, if you want to compare General Lee to Columbus, I mean, Columbus found the New World. He did not he was not fighting for a country that was predicated on slavery. Now, that slavery happened at that point, I mean, of course it did. But his whole life wasn't dedicated to preserving a country whose modus operandi was slavery.
Yeah, but what is interesting is he's heralded, as he should be, for getting lost. He had no idea where
Italians are bad at directions. You notice that?
Ask for directions. He just arrives there, but I admire that.
By the way, he was blind by the end of his life. He was basically blind because he was staring at the sun so much. I mean, he was a pretty amazing guy.
Amazing is right. Yeah, amazing is.
And I'm proud to celebrate Columbus Day as opposed to indigenous peoples who performed human sacrifices day.
Well, there is always that. All right.